Elena and her husband resided in one of the most isolated areas of Colombia, along with their 2-year-old daughter. Circumstances have led them to this remote location, as they have been denied all opportunities in the nearby towns. With no other options available, they chose to venture into the jungle in search of a place where they could construct their home by hand, utilizing the resources that nature provided. Their home was a small wooden structure that took them a considerable amount of time to build, as they were not used to rural living. However, they quickly grew fond of their little piece of land, hidden from the outside world, which gradually blossomed into a natural paradise through their diligent efforts. They learned to cultivate crops and gather resources to sustain themselves, relying on the bounty of nature. They hunted small game in the bush and grew vegetables and fruits on their plot. While everything seemed to be going well, they occasionally missed interacting with others and accessing the conveniences of city life, such as dining out or buying new clothes. After 2 years of settling in, they noticed their clothing supply was dwindling. For a few weeks, they considered making garments from plants and covering only the essentials, drawing on their indigenous heritage. However, they soon realized they needed better clothing and that hunting large animals for their skins was not feasible. They understood it was time to plan a trip to the city. They had no money, but they believed they could sell fruits and vegetables once they arrived, allowing them to buy the clothes and blankets they needed. They left early in the morning heavily loaded and walked the path back to civilization. They found everything different along the way, but they managed to orient themselves. What surprised them the most was a small river that, although they could cross it on foot without problems, had not been there before, and they did not know how it had formed. When they arrived in the city, they felt intimidated. They had been living alone for too long. However, they soon began to offer their products on the street. Although the sale took longer than expected, they managed to sell everything and then bought what they needed. As afternoon approached, they knew that if they started their journey back at that time, night would catch them halfway, so they had to stay. Elena remembered the only friend she had there long ago, and they went to her house. When they arrived, the woman was very surprised to see them again. She believed they had died. However, it would have been better for them to spend the night under a bridge because, although the woman did not mean any harm, in the following days, she told the story of Alina and her husband to everyone who crossed her path. Soon, people began to turn their attention to that place that had always been forgotten. What caught the attention of everyone who heard the story was the river they mentioned. In the town, water was scarce, and everyone was surprised that just a few hours away, there was a place with water that they could take advantage of. In the following 2 years, without Alina and her husband being aware, heavy machinery passed near the river, expanding its channel. In a few months, the small river became a large and mighty one. Yes, Alina and her husband had been cut off from the people without knowing it because the river had become too wide and deep to cross safely by swimming. However, only a year later would they discover this. By that time, Alina had given birth to another daughter. The first year of life for the little girl had not been easy because they did not have enough resources to care for her, but Alina managed to feed her adequately. However, days after the girl turned 2, she fell ill in a way that filled her parents with terror. She suffered from high fevers and vomiting, and did not want to eat anything. They tried all the plants and natural remedies they knew, but nothing worked for them. It was then that Alina, in desperation, decided to go to the village to seek help. Her husband wanted to take on the task at first, but she had a better sense of direction and knew that she would not get lost, even though her surroundings had changed again in recent years. However, Alina never imagined that the small river she had once crossed on foot without problems had now become a mighty river that filled her with fear. But her fear was overshadowed by the need to bring medicine to her daughter. She had a bundle of fruits and vegetables to sell, but she realized that she could not cross the river with the load. She trusted that when she arrived in the city, her friend would help her by buying the medicine she needed for the girl. However, she tied the load to a rope, secured it to her waist, and began the crossing of the river. At first, it seemed that she could cross without significant problems, but when she was halfway across, the current dragged the load with more force than Alina had anticipated, pulling her several meters downstream. Alina saw something approaching her in a hurry. She could not see well and feared the worst. They were in the jungle, and it could well be a crocodile. To her surprise and relief, it was actually a dog. The animal had heard the unusual agitation in the water and, seeing the human in trouble, jumped in without hesitation to help her. Alina knew that she had to untie herself as soon as possible, and so she did. She lost the goods, but it was preferable to losing her life. The effort had left her exhausted, and that noble dog had arrived like an angel to save her life. She did not feel she had the strength to swim to the riverside, but with the help of the animal, she could reach safety. Meanwhile, a couple watched them with concern from the riverside. They were the owners of the dog and had built a small house near the river, inspired by the story they had heard about Alina and her husband. When they learned that the woman their dog had rescued was the same woman from the story, they immediately praised her for the strength it took to leave everything she knew and enter the jungle to start from scratch. It took a lot of courage to do something like that, but Alina only had one thing in mind. She urgently needed medicine for her daughter. The couple lent her a donkey they had, allowing her to finally reach the village. As she had anticipated, her friend came to her aid, and Alina began her journey back with the medicines. However, she once again faced the challenge of crossing the river. The couple who lived nearby had just started building a canoe using ties. With the dog by her side once more, Alina crossed the river. Once on the other side, she embraced the dog, thanking it for saving her, and waved at the couple, tears of relief streaming down her face after such a harrowing experience. She arrived home just in time, before it was too late for her daughter. A couple of days later, the little girl was already on the mend. From that point on, Alina, her husband, and the couple across the river became good friends, visiting each other often and no longer feeling the need to venture into the city. They continued their rural life, living happily together for many more years. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.